Hi there. So I thought I'd do another painting. So it's been about a week since the last one, and I've had some really positive feedback from a few of my students who saw the video, and seems like a few other people watched it. So I thought I'd do another one. I was going to try and do loads, but of course now I'm back teaching. Life gets in the way. So I think at this rate I'll be lucky to do one a week. Anyway. So, picking up from my classes, we've been, as I say, looking at Carol Marine's book, and this week we've been looking at tone, she refers to it as value. So this relates to light and dark in a painting. So as you can see, I picked a very tonal subject, and I photographed this in one of my students with the setup that I have there. So we were trying different arrangements with light backgrounds, dark backgrounds, but you'll see a lot of still life artists go back to this very sort of traditional approach of very strong light on an object with a very dark background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the exercise. I'm going to start off by doing the exercise in the book, which is to do a monochrome underpainting. And then if I've got time, I'll add some colour on over the top. So we'll start off with just toning the canvas with burnt umber. Okay, so we're using the paint transparently, so that means no white. We're just going to use the paint and then use the thinner to create our light and dark effect. Okay. So as you may have seen in my last video, I mentioned that the panels have been falling out. So at the moment I'm using this little clip to secure it, which hopefully should avoid any disasters with this one. Okay, so there we go. Pop the little clip back on. So there we go. It's a bit like a mid-tone. It's a little bit light for a mid-tone, but I think it'll do for what we've got in mind. So I'm going to sketch it out. Again, using the flat brush, I'm trying to get those nice angular looks. So I'm just having a look at the composition. Okay, so it's quite a low sort of horizon here. Okay, and I like the way they're both tilting on a diagonal. I think that gives it some interest, so I'll try and keep all that in mind. So that's not ideal having that coming off, but I think if we have this come off completely, that'll be better than having it just touching the edge. So these were two little quite dried out pomegranates that one of my students brought in. I thought they made quite a nice subject. so that's a bit big, that one. So I'm just gonna, like I did with the last one, just wipe that out, create a little ghost, and then just refine that slightly. So obviously there's a lot of detail within that shape, but initially I'm just trying to isolate it. And then what I'm going to do is cut into it using the background. So that gives me the two main shapes. Let's colour that a bit wider. Okay, so we've got our dark shadow here. You see I'm picking up all this yellow paint, so need to give the easel a bit of a clean. So that shadow just connects them, and then we're going to have a small sliver of light in the distance. Okay, and then separate the lights and the darks. So I'm going to try and paint this quite quickly. So mostly I had positive feedback. One of my students thought it went on a little bit too long. Some people quite like that, but I'll try and speed this one up slightly. As my classes attract quite a sort of diverse sort of range of students, but there are some of them that aren't very they're not as familiar with using things like YouTube and Instagram and things like that. So I don't think the lady in question was aware there was a sort of fast forward capability. Whereas I'm sure most people, like whenever I watch these videos on YouTube of someone painting, normally end up fast forwarding it a bit to see how they get on at the end. But it is quite nice. It's nice to every now and again sit down and just watch a painting, see how it unfolds in real time. So just getting some of that shadow in there. As I say, this is like that dry brush technique I was talking about last time. So we're not using any white, I'm just almost staining the canvas, and it gives me quite a bit of control with these tonal effects. I say the great thing about this, lots of artists use this for all sorts of different types of painting. It's quite a traditional approach to starting a painting, which is to establish your tonal underpainting. It enables you to sort of resolve quite a few things before you've committed. Normally if it works at a tonal level, then the painting should work with the colour on. So we've got that in. I've also been spending quite a lot of my spare time over the weekend and this week trying to get my website up and running. So I've been looking at lots of different videos, different ways to how do you put your art online, and lots of different ways of doing it. Etsy, some people still like to use eBay, these sorts of things. But in the end I decided I thought I would stick with my WordPress site, but I thought I would try and do a bit of work to it to make it look a bit more polished. So you can always pop along to there, have a look, see what I've uploaded. I'll put the link down below. Okay, so I'm just trying to get a general feel for these shadows at this stage. These are the areas that will take the most amount of fiddling in the end. So now a little bit of medium, and I'll just get that background in. So the medium I'm using is turpentine with a little bit of linseed oil in. And again, I've tried lots of different things, liquin, just linseed oil. And at the moment this is what's working. I think sometimes I like to put a bit of stand oil in. Stand oil is thickened linseed oil. But this is just, say, terps and normal linseed oil. It seems to work quite well at this small format. So trying to keep the brush strokes big, not over fiddling with things. It's very easy just to get bogged down in detail, even at this small stage. So already you can see it's starting to work on a tonal level. It's starting to pop out slightly. So this area needs to be illuminated. A bit more, and maybe here. I'm just losing the edge there. Lost and found edges, it's quite a nice thing. You don't want a hard edge around the entire bit of fruit. So she mentions in the book squinting. Squinting is really useful for perception of tone. When you squint, you reduce the visual information and it helps you to see the thing as a whole, as opposed to when you focus in on an area. Basically what happens is your eye opens up and you tend to exaggerate the lights and the darks, so squinting helps to counteract that. We've got a nice dark there. Okay, push that. So, how are we doing for time? Not sure how long I've been doing it now. So there's a little bit of dry paint there, which is just acting like it's just scraping the paint off. Okay, so there's those. It's starting to work. We'll just perhaps tidy up this little edge here. So what she does in the book is she suggests lifting out the mid-tone with the terps. So I'll take out a little bit, but I think I'm not going to take out the whole lot, because you see, we'll just take out a bit near the shadows. Just taking out a bit there. But I think that might be enough. So this is a gradient here, so starting that dark at the bottom, going light towards, oh, it's picking up a bit of yellow there, just off the side. just towards our, it's almost like a spotlight there, just near the shadow. Okay, so that is my tonal pattern, but I am going to do I'm going to finish it in colour. Just do a little bit more here. Yeah, just more creates the feeling of a bit of an overlap there. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. We'll just, so now I'm going to go into it with colour and just see how far I can get it resolved. So I'm trying, one of my sort of themes is, as you might have seen, I've been uploading my painting a day onto Instagram. So I'm trying to basically keep my brush strokes big at the moment. Try not to overwork. So it's very tempting just to keep fiddling away, but I'm trying to keep it sort of big. So I'm going to start with the background. Although it's got this umber, I'm going to put a bit of blue in and just get that richer black. And this just really helps the these objects to pop out. So this is why she's stressing it in the book about focus on tone and your paintings will pop out more. Now I don't want to basically kill off this umber colour completely because it actually almost acts, it's a bit like a reddish brown. So it's nice to have a bit of that. You see, it really makes these objects stand out. One of the, in my art classes, one thing I've always been very keen on is to have well lit still life subjects. It was something that when I was at university studying art and art college, it was something that they never did. We never had well lit, everything from life drawing to still life. There was never any effort to basically light the things well. which is a shame really, because in a normal classroom setting, say you have lights, you might have about 6 or 7 light sources, great big windows, and which is fine for seeing what you're doing, but if you want to light an object to paint it, really you need just a single light source. That's what's going to help it, that's what's going to make it more painterly. So I do it for my students just basically to make life easier for them. If you've got good lighting, it makes for easier painting. So that's my darkest dark. We do have a little touch of this just coming across here, very thin. Which is where the flat brush comes in use. So now I'll do the ground. So the ground is basically white, and as you might know, I'm not keen on using pure white, so I'm just going to nudge it towards a cool grey, just with a touch of blue in, a bit of umber, and then move that towards this highlight area. As it moves, as I paint up, it will pick up some of that warm colour. This is where I use my medium. Try and keep the brush strokes big. Getting a bit warmer, a bit lighter. And then we can go in there with our lightest highlight on the ground. Bit of medium. And this is just an opportunity to restate that shadow by drawing around it, painting around it. So that helps, you know, although it's a bit of a nothingy area, having that temperature change so it doesn't just get whiter, it also gets warmer, moves towards the yellow. That creates interest. Okay. So just move that clip. Okay, so now I can do the pomegranates. As you can see, the nice thing about doing it in this step-by-step way is at each stage I feel in control and I can adjust. So it's very good when you're learning to paint is to basically learn a sequence, and then you stick with that sequence for a while until it becomes almost second nature. So toning the canvas, sketching in the objects, doing a block in, and then refining. So these are the steps you take. Okay, so I say we've got the tonal pattern. So in these mid-tone areas is where I can get a bit more colour, but not overdoing it, because I say in the shadows the colour will be slightly subdued. So I'm using this crimson and then I'm muddying it with umber, and then just using almost like a dry brush effect. This is reflected light in this part. Where it's actually it is a very strong light edge, light against dark. Okay, now keeping with these quite subtle sort of pinkish colours are sort of surrounding the highlight area. And then it's as it turns from the light into the shadow, this is where we get the more intense colours. Here it really does get dark. So that little grey note here, that's suggesting the reflected light. This is the light on the table bouncing back up into that reflective surface. So I want to keep that there. So I've been, I had a class this morning in Woodbridge, which was good, very lively class, busy. When they're very busy like that, normally I don't paint. My class in Felixstowe yesterday was a bit quieter. So if anyone's watching this from further afield, so I live in Suffolk in England, and Felixstowe is one of the little, well, there's a big port there, so it's about 10 miles away from Ipswich, where I am at the moment. And yeah, my class there was a bit quieter, and so I did some painting there yesterday, but I tried 2 different compositions and they both didn't work. So, and this is what I think is really useful about the painting a day approach, is that you will have ones where they don't work out so well, but you just have to regroup and stick with it. And I was a bit sort of, I didn't want this. So far I'm quite pleased with how this is looking actually. I think it's starting to get the form, which is good. I generally think if you can get, you want to avoid, I find if I get 3 bad ones in a row, and that used to be enough, I would suddenly, I'd sort of stop painting for a few weeks, or I'd lose my enthusiasm. So there are things you can do, and one of them is to try and find something more, you can look at your compositions, you can try and analyse basically what's gone wrong. And so that's where, coming back to this tonal idea, I think it was that I hadn't thought about my tones, they weren't clear enough, whereas this one's got this nice strong black background. So there we go. And I'll start doing a bit more to this one. So this one, the colour really is quite desaturated, I guess maybe because it's an old dried out pomegranate. Basically purple notes in there, which is nice. So if you're enjoying this video, hit like, that would really help me. Just trying to grow the channel, get more people watching it. So pressing like at the bottom there is a really useful thing you can do, or you can subscribe and get notifications next time I upload a video. So the plan at the moment is to try and aim for 1 a week, but as with all these things, it turns out actually doing the video is one thing, then you have to edit it and upload it, and so there's quite a bit to it really. For years I've watched YouTube, never really thought too much about the actual work that goes into making these videos. Okay, and then as it turns into the shadow there, that's where we see that redder note. So another trick with oil painting is you're always trying to pay very close attention to what's actually happening to the brush and how the paint's behaving. So the more you do of it, the more it becomes, you can anticipate what will happen, but you have to just make sure that you're in control of it. And you can adjust, and always using the rag just to clean the brush, try and stay in control of the amount of pigment and terps on there. So there's some darker notes on this one, so we just go a bit dark there. Again, so as I say, I decided to stick with my website, edcooper.art. So if you like this painting or any of the other ones I've done, if you go on to edcooper.art, you should be able to find them under my little shop that I have. And some of my more recent work. So most of the work I've done in the last year or so has been framed up locally. But when I sell these smaller little studies, they will be sold unframed. So give them enough time to dry, and then they can be sent out. And as I say, it's something I had, I had a good run with it before, and then decided to get more into exhibiting work in galleries. But with my teaching, it's difficult just to put in that time for those bigger galleries. I think bigger paintings just come across well, so working to these smaller formats and doing loads of paintings seems to work well for me. So there's our highlight. So just really trying not to overdo that. Like there. I think we'll leave that other one. And we'll just put a few little accents on. Just a few little details. So try not to do too much detail. So you want to try and keep that fresh quality here, but just some marks there, just suggesting the roundness. Linking the bottom of the fruit to the shadow shape, so it's effectively one thing. and then just a bit more work. To this area. Yeah, I think it's quite nice having these bright, that's really, that light there is just simply the underpainting, the original underpainting, but I don't think that needs any fiddling with. Just get this shadow here. So this was almost all just cutting out the shapes to create the top there. But in the end I'm quite pleased with that. It's created a feeling of it being three-dimensional. And then we're just gonna really push the highlight a little bit just here, I think. Just filling in almost a slight bluish tint. Suggesting a few little dots of texture. Blob there. And then just use a bigger brush, just tidying up this edge. I say tidying up, I'm just softening the background. We don't want that to be too hard edged, and this one. So just dragging the brush over. Okay, there we go. Pomegranates. So I'm hoping that was a bit quicker than the last one. Not that my intention is to do speed painting, so I have tried to paint it well. In fact, this is actually a lot tighter than the Satsuma one I did earlier in the week, but there we go. But yeah, I think that's just soften that. Okay, there we go. So I think that's it for today. So there we go, Pair of Pomegranates. That's my daily painting or weekly YouTube video in this case. So yeah, if you like this video, hit like, subscribe, and I'm sure I'll be here this time next week for another little painting. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.